Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am here to do a module on human relations approach, which is also called human relations theory, as part of the course on Introduction to Public Administration. I am Professor Srinivas Reddy. I am retired from Kakati University as Professor of Public Administration. Currently I am working for Aurora Group of Institutions at Hyderabad. Human relations theory is also known as neoclassical theory. Just to get a fleeting glimpse of a perspective of this particular approach or theory, let's have some understanding of the various theories of public administration. The first theory of public administration is known as the classical theory, and the second theory is known as neoclassical theory. And the third major theory of public administration is known as behavioral theory. This human relations theory is called by William G. Scott as neoclassical theory. This is for the reason that this particular theory is a kind of link between the classical theory and the behavioral theory. This is not totally different from classical theory, nor totally one with the behavioral theory. Hence, it's called a bridge. Of course, the word behavioralism was not popular when Elton Mayo was making his contributions to human relations theory. Later, this word behavioralism got christened, and therefore, one of the critics pointed out that Elton Mayo was a behavioralist much before the term behavioralism became popular. We have to know a little background of George Elton Mayo, who is the preceptor of this school or the theory or approach. Students, you should know that these three words are used interchangeably. Whether it is called a school, theory or approach, they are one and the same. The human relations theory is the result of the contributions of George Elton Mayo and a few others. Hugo Munsterberg was one who made some contributions to this. Friedrich Roethlisberger and Dickson also made contributions to this theory along with George Elton Mayo as part of the experiments known as Hawthorne experiments. The human relations theory is in fact a reaction to the classical theory. The classical theory held that the structure is primary for an organization. If somebody wants to offer a good administration or efficient administration, he has to develop a well-structured organization. To have a well-structured organization, there shall be some principles. If you follow the principles and structure the organization will offer twin advantages, the efficiency and economy. And efficiency and economy is there, the organization will be working successfully. This, in summary, is the classical theory. This classical theory had an economic notion of man. I think some of you would have heard that there are various social science subjects who would tag the man with that particular subject and portray his nature. Economists would say that man is an economic man. Sociologists would say that man is a social man. Psychologists would say that man is a bundle of wants. So on it goes. And taking a cue from economists, the classical theory assumed that an industrial worker or an employee in an organization basically works to fulfill his economic needs. And once these needs are fulfilled, he will not bother about other things. So this is essentially the contribution, the concept of economic man, which was disputed by George Elton Mayo on the basis of experiments he has conducted. And George Elton Mayo posits or offers an alternative view of human being, and he says that man is basically social man. He lives and works in organization for social gratification, for a comfortable social life and all that. So he highlights the social notion of man, but he would not totally dispute or totally condemn the earlier notion that man is economic. So therefore, human relations theory says that man is part economic and part social. So therefore, the human nature is more complex than what the earlier thinkers have assumed. Elton Mayo is influenced by two famous thinkers, psychologists, Geary Panet and Sigmund Freud. And he was one with a very wide background. He studied logic, he studied philosophy, he studied medicine, and he worked as a professor in philosophy. But with this background, he joined Harvard Business School as professor of psychology. And he was called to help the Western Electric Company, the Hawthorne plant of Western Electric Company, to fix a problem. The problem there was the high turnover of employees. For the benefit of students, let me mention that turnover means how many people leave the job before the end of the year. If large number of people are leaving, this is called high turnover. If the number of people leaving the organization at the end of year is very minimal, it is low turnover. High turnover, particularly in the Western industrial context, is considered to be a negative, because the organization would not have experienced people to work with it, because all the time people are changing. So this was the problem, and it was supposed to be fixed. And when the company could not do by itself, it invited outside experts. And the first invitation went to the Social Research Council, and these people have done some research from 1924 to 27. And this research could not result in much headway, and therefore Elton Mayo was called from Harvard Business School, and he stepped in and conducted further experiments from 1927 to 1932. The Hawthorne experiments are so called because of the reason that these experiments were conducted in the Hawthorne plant of the Western Electric Company in Chicago, United States of America. And these experiments were some of the biggest experiments in the history of industrial psychology or industrial sociology. And in fact, they were path-breaking, and these experiments have resulted in a new theory of management, new theory of organization, which has been borrowed into public administration. It has to be mentioned that this theory did not develop in the context of public organizations. It was developed in the context of private organizations, but public administration borrowed this as one of its own theories, and it started applying this to the understanding of public phenomena or the government phenomena. The Hawthorne experiments have been conducted by Elton Mayo along with his associates Rothlis, Berger and Dixon, and the results of this are the following. The important experiments conducted at Hawthorne plant were the bank wiring experiment, relay assembly experiment, great illumination experiment, and as a result of these experiments, certain conclusions were drawn by George Elton Mayo and his team of associates. The first of them is that man is as much social as economic, as was pointed out earlier. Therefore, the message here is that human being can be motivated not by mere economic incentives such as hike in wages or material comforts, but by social considerations too. Secondly, it brought out the fact that in every formal organization, there is informal organization. The classical theory has given importance. Sole focus of the classical theory was on the formal organization. Formal organization is the organization that is developed, designed by the official authorities. And Elton Mayo argued that no formal organization ever really functions the way it is crafted to function. Always there are changes in that. And these changes happen because of informal organization. Informal organization is a network of relations that employees develop in the course of their day-to-day working. And informal organization develops on the basis of shared interests, maybe the caste, the community, the gender, the ideological persuasions or the matters of interest. So people come together to discuss and interact on matters of common interest. And when these contacts become regular, it takes a pattern, and what we get is informal organization. Slightly connected with informal organization has a strong hold on the employee's behavior. To understand how the employees are behaving, it's not just enough to understand the authority lines. the hierarchy, unity of command, the classical principles of public administration will not be totally helpful in understanding how an employee really functions. And this theory focuses on behavioral aspects, how an employee actually behaves. Actual behavior is guided by informal considerations also. And in fact, one of the related things is informal communication, which is also called grapevine. As a creeper of the grape spreads quite fast in all directions, the informal communication, which is different from official communication, spreads very fast. And employees take to informal communication more readily than formal communication. Formal communication will be jettisoning, it will be halting, and you do not show much interest in that because of the verbose and the jargon readiness of the formal communication. The informal communication is spontaneous, it touches your heart and it touches your feelings, and therefore it's more interesting, and you would tend to show much interest in this. So this is another aspect of this. And one more thing is that this theory also says that Elton Mayer talks about a particular phenomena called the Hawthorne effect. Hawthorne effect is the change in behavior of the people when they are under observation. Human behavior is of two types. One, when nobody is observing, your behavior is natural, true to oneself. When you are under observation, your behavior tends to be different. This is what is called as Hawthorne effect. And to substantiate his conclusion about the existence of informal organization, he has introduced to test what is the nature of the worker, true nature of the worker. Is he totally economic, as it was posited by the earlier school, or is he different from that? Is he social, as he started believing? And he started a scheme of incentives for employees, and incentives are those which are given to employees, and it results in variable pay. If you work more, you get more. If you work less, you get less. And therefore, it just tried to test a hypothesis known as Rabel hypothesis, which was forwarded by the classical thinkers. Human beings were considered to be a disorganized mass of people, each acting in his own individual interest. So everybody would try to maximize individual interest. He will not so much bother about the social interest or community interest. So just he wanted to test this, and he introduced incentive systems in a place of work in one of his experiments. And his experiment proved that incentive system was made a success in the sense that employees took to it and they went on increasing the production. And the production shot up to a point because there was something to gain by everybody, but at some point of time it peaked, it plateaued. Plateauing is, stood settled at one level. It was neither going up nor going down. So it intrigued him, and he probed deeply into that, and the workers realized that by having an incentive system, there is some kind of likely negative impact to all of them. The negative impact will be if the workers go on incessantly ever increasing production, a time may come that you produce more than what a company can sell. So therefore the aches will fall on extra workers. So it may be that some of the slow workers may be axed, they may be removed from service. So therefore they thought that in the collective interest to save everybody around, so they thought that incentive system is good to the extent that will help us to gain more money, but incentive system should not be taken to its logical conclusion, because if we keep on producing more, we can produce more, but if we keep on producing more, some people would lose jobs. It may be you, me, or anybody. So therefore the feeling of camaraderie surfaced, and they wanted to settle at one particular level. And they developed some informal communication, which I have just mentioned. So somebody who was mentioning this to outside management, they wanted to make it a secret. So they had an understanding among themselves that they will keep this to themselves and they will not leak out what they have decided. But they should not produce more, nor they should produce less. So if this information was to be leaked out, the person who leaked out was criticized, heckled as a squealer. If somebody was overdoing, trying to do too fast and produce more, he was criticized as rate buster. If somebody was doing too slow, and too slow to defeat the very scheme. The net production after introduction of the scheme should not be below the earlier production level. So there is danger if everybody produces slow. So there may be failure of this experiment and they stand to lose. So therefore the fellow who was working slow workers were nicknamed as chiselers. So chiseling is, you craft a statue by chiseling. So when the nose is chiseled, I think you spend hours and days to craft a sharp nose. It takes, one doesn't know how many days it takes. So therefore, that kind of attitude was resisted by the people in general. So therefore, group norms were what were important. And this is where Elton Mayo said that group norms are more important than official rules and regulations. One more contribution of George Elton Mayo is that he gave the slogan that happy worker is the most productive worker. The workplace should make the workers happy. By making the worker happy, his production levels will increase. So this is yet another contribution of this. And one more important contribution, and perhaps the more important of the contributions, is that he is considered to be rightly the father of industrial sociology. Elton Mayo said that industry is a social microcosm. It's a reflection of the wider society outside. And therefore, one should be aware of this fact while dealing with industry. So what are all the forces in society in some way or the other also influence the working pattern and working relations and working atmosphere of the companies where the workers are working. So therefore, workplace is a social microcosm, and therefore industrial sociology recommends that the sociologists or people should take interest in studying industry, the industrial society's makeup. So what are the people, what are the groups in that, what are the values of the people working, what are the norms of the people working. These things should be understood to gain an understanding into the psychology of the workers, so that workers can be motivated to produce higher levels of production. Well, these are some of the major contributions of George Elton Mayo. And Elton Mayo's contribution is one of the important ones, is that he has shown the way of improving productivity without spending more money. Where the classical theory harped on economic incentives and money as the sole means of motivation. He said that money is not the sole mean of motivation. Workers can be motivated by playing to their social interests, social needs. And in saying this, he take the support of the ventilation therapy, which he did. He went on listening to the workers' problems, and the workers went on narrating what are all the problems they had and how they would like to be treated and all that. Elton Mayo did not do anything because he was a researcher, a consultant from outside. He was not the authority, did not have the line authority to change the organization's functioning and all that. But yet he did not give any impression that he was either changing or not changing, simply went on asking what were their problems, what are their views. And this is what he called as ventilation therapy. So workers went on narrating their feelings, their ideas, their outbursts and all that. He was patiently listening to all of them. And he found that the productivity increased because of that. In one more thing, he established in the Great Illumination experiment, he improved the physical conditions of work. Particularly one parameter of work was light intensity in a relay assembly room, where good lighting was of great help in assembling the telephone pieces. And when the light intensity, he wanted to find out the relationship between two variables, that is intensity of light and productivity. So assume from the classical thinkers that if you improve the light intensity, productivity is more. So he slowly went on increasing the intensity of light, and true to his guess, the productivity went on, and it went up and up. And he tried to test if greater illumination is the reason for greater productivity, lesser illumination should result in decline in productivity. Therefore, he went on reducing gradually the intensity of light. But the productivity levels did not fall. In fact, they were going up. So from this he concluded that it is not the mere economic conditions or the physical conditions that matter, the social conditions, the concern and the importance that was shown. And here in this experiment, workers felt that they were singled out for a major experiment and they have to prove themselves. They have to keep the trust, redeem the trust reposed by the person who is doing experiment, and therefore they went on cooperating and they went on improving the productivity. So whether it was high intensity of light or low intensity of light. In fact, the intensity of light was brought down to moonlight level. So moonlight level is one where you can see things but not very clearly. So actually it was very difficult to do such kind of operation, but yet productivity went up, and this was only because of the reason that they had other than economic considerations. So these are some of the experiments and major findings. Elton Mayo's contribution, one of the important compliments to Elton Mayo. The next school, perhaps we are going to discuss in the next lecture, would be the behavioral approach. And Elton Mayo was not aware of the term behavioralism and all that, but yet, in retrospect, the critics would point out that he was a first behavioralist. And therefore, the compliment that was paid to him was that he was a behavioralist before the term behavioralism became popular. Second, he is considered to be the father of industrial sociology. Anybody interested in industrial production should also look at industry as a social microcosm. So they have to see the reflections of society in the industry, and they have to give enough attention to social aspects. Thirdly, he has demonstrated the power of informal organization. And in fact, he goes to the extent of saying that informal organization is not the counter of formal organization. And there is a feeling among some administrators that informal organization spoils the formal organization. And Elton Mayo goes to the extent of saying if there is no informal organization, it has to be created. There are several advantages of informal organization. Number one, informal organization is spontaneous. So one doesn't get bored spending time in an informal way. But in a formal meeting, one gets exhausted, becomes tired very soon. So it is spontaneous, and it is touching your interests, common interests and all that. Secondly, informal organization follows informal communication. Informal communication is quicker, like the grapevine. The metaphor of grapevine is used here to connote the idea that like the grapevine spreads very fast all around, this also informal communications travels very fast. So if you have to convey something very important, informal communication is also a route. And sometimes it is not possible to reach communication only through formal communication, because of the reason that subordinates may not pay attention to formal communication, because formal communication is always top down, and it comes with certain, laced with authority, and it says that with certain compulsion, and it is a kind of ordering, where the subordinate has no way but he has to follow. But informal communication appeals to the good sense of the person, and it tries to convince the fellow to do things and all that. Therefore, this is the power of informal communication. Some critics have pointed out that if you have total informal organization, there will be end of organization. Formal organization has rules and regulations. Informal organization is one which is based on norms, shared sentiments, shared ideas, and then traditions, some of these things. And in practice, it is found that no organization can ever sustain itself on totally informal relations. A formal organization is inescapable, and there cannot be organization without informal organization. The critics essentially point out that informal organization is important, but Elton Mayo has overdone the importance of informal organization by saying that informal organization has all the merits, but too much of informal organization is also bad. In fact, some of the current problems of public administration in India are because of too much of informality. I think if one were to look at the government employees, they carry office work home, and homework they bring to office. They do many things on office phone, and perhaps they do things for office from the home using the... So there is no strict separation between the formal and informal, and sometimes this is also creating problems. An employee may not come on time and all that. So formal organization can be tempered with informal organization, and some of the elements of informal organization, they are added to the formal organization becomes more effective. Anyway, the criticism remains. And one more pungent criticism against George Elton Mayo is that his sociology, he preached a kind of sociology known as cow sociology. What it essentially means is that they assume human being to be a cow. Cow is a domesticated animal, very soft and docile animal. Whatever the owner bids, the keeper bids, the cow does. It doesn't, like a bull, it will not charge the owner. The cow is always obliging and all that. So he has this notion of human nature, and he says that happy worker is very productive worker. I think too much of hedonism, too much of pleasure seeking. In fact, some of the organizations are spoiled because of too many rituals, too many functions and all that. There is no essential work. So therefore, this criticism is well-meaning to the extent that it points out some of the excessiveness of the ideas of George Elton Mayo. Nevertheless, Elton Mayo has a very great place in the history of ideas on organization management and by adaptation in public administration. I think without having his understanding of the nature of organization and the nature of man in the organization, nature of the organization relations, and the value of informal communication, informal organization, and the incentives and the ventilation therapy, listening to the views of the employees, participative management. This is yet another contribution of this. I think the whole industry is now talking about participative management and employee empowerment. These are all ideas which are essentially based on the signal ideas or the foundational ideas of George Elton Mayo. Therefore, we can conclude by saying that George Elton Mayo had a lasting place in the theories of management and approaches to management. In this module, we have come to understand what is human relations theory, what is its place in the theories of management, what is the sequence in which it has come to take shape, what are its major contributions, what are some of the major criticisms against this. These are the things we have come to discuss in this particular module. I'm sure that you would have gained some understanding of these things. Thank you.